Hi, and welcome to the Alaska Report. I'm Senator Lisa Murkowski, and this afternoon I have the opportunity to really engage in a fun Alaska Report. Every summer I invite back 20 young Alaskans to be part of my summer internship program. I bring back 10 for the month of June, 10 for the month of July. Kids come from all over the state. They have just graduated from high school. Which is unlike some of the other intern programs that you'll see here in the United States Senate where they cater more towards the college students. So this is a great opportunity for 10 eager, enthusiastic young Alaskans to come back to our nation's capital, join me in my office, work alongside my staff, shadow me throughout the day, see really what goes on in the life of a senator and the inner workings here in the United States Senate. And then in the evening, an opportunity to learn about what Washington, D.C. has to offer. So it's a great, great opportunity for them. It certainly invigorates me during my day-to-day. So with this program, it's kind of special because instead of me interviewing an individual about the issues that they're involved with, this is a chance for the interns to kind of turn the tables and ask questions of me. So I'd like to introduce you to my first session, Summer Interns for 2014. Great group of young people. We've had a great month. It's been a little bit hot here in Washington, D.C., but we can deal with all that. So Emily, we're going to start here. If you would just introduce yourself, tell folks what part of the state you're from, your high school, and then let's start with questions.
All right, well, I'm Emily Hartley. I'm from Talkeetna, Alaska, and I just graduated from Susitna Valley High School.
Great.
So I would like to thank you, first of all, Senator, for giving us some of your time here. I think I speak for all of the interns when we say we're very excited and we greatly appreciate it.
You have been fabulous to work with, so thank you. It goes both ways.
Excellent. So my question would be, when you're determining your position on the different energy projects in our state, how do you take into consideration the opinions of the Alaskans who will be directly affected?
Well, it's a great question because coming from a state like Alaska, 1/5 the size of the United States, it's tough to say that one energy project is what the state of Alaska needs. If you're from southeast like Austin, hydro is really our energy source. If you are from South Central, of course, we've been powered by natural gas coming out of Cook Inlet. We've enjoyed cheap energy sources for years. If you're from the interior, from North Pole, you recognize that, well, natural gas may be abundant in the Cook Inlet and abundant on the North Slope. We're not being able to access it in the interior part of the state and therefore see high energy costs. So when it comes to balancing energy projects, it's important to understand where our energy assets are in the state of Alaska, and then how we build it out from there. Remember that 80%, more than 80% of our communities in the state of Alaska are not connected by road. We're not part of an energy grid like they are in the lower 48. So we've got to come up with our own, sometimes unique energy solutions, whether it's a biomass project to help heat the public buildings in Craig, or whether it's small hydro, or whether it's run of the river, or whether it's geothermal. Our opportunities are truly there, but how we make sure that they work in the region of the state that's most important is key. So looking to the assets and then truly what the people of the region support. It's a good question, and hopefully you've learned a lot working on the Energy Committee while you've been here. So thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Michaela.
So I'm Michaela Spalding, and I'm from Fairbanks, and I attended Hutchinson High School. And my question is, if you did not choose to become involved in politics, what would you have done for your career?
This is a total softball because I always wanted to be a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher, and from my earliest memories, I thought I want to be like my grandma in Ketchikan. And until I was a sophomore in college, I was planning on being a teacher. And then things changed. I ended up moving from education to economics and then went on to get my law degree. But I've always thought that if I weren't doing what I was doing now, I would like to be in the classroom. In a way, I feel like I do a fair amount of teaching, because back here, you're always educating people about our state, about what's going on, about what we need, why it's different, what we need to be doing more of or less of. And so in many, many ways, I feel like I'm educating others, and the opportunity to work with young people such as yourselves just kind of reminds me again how great teaching is in so many different ways. But yeah, anybody want to be a teacher here? All right, good, Deirdre, great. Alfonso.
Thank you. My name is Alfonso Satanga. I'm from Homer, Alaska. Senator, what steps is Alaska taking to create and use more renewable energy?
Well, again, it's like the energy issue that Emily asked. We've got so much available to us when it comes to our renewable energy resources. You think about some places in the lower 48, and they're very limited. You may come from Arizona where, yeah, you've got solar, but what else is out there? Think about Alaska. We have hydro, which is an extraordinary renewable resource for us. We've got the potential for biomass, geothermal, wind energy, certainly ocean energy, tidal energy, marine hydrokinetic. We have it all. What we lack is kind of that customer base, if you will. It's not cheap building out these renewable energy resources. And so in order to gain efficiencies, in order to bring these projects to scale, this can be part of our real challenge. So one of the things that I'm doing in my capacity as the ranking member on the Energy Committee is trying to encourage these technologies that will allow us to access our renewable energy resources in a way that is scalable. If you don't have hundreds of thousands of people that are tapping into this base, how do you make it pencil out? How do you make it work? We've got challenges here, but I think we've got more opportunities when it comes to renewables than the challenges that present themselves. So what we're trying to do back here in Washington, D.C. is push out on the development of technologies, push out on ways that we can reduce the cost, because that's really what's going to allow us to get out into our smaller communities that are not part of our grid, and really try to push Alaskans to be the innovators that we are when it comes to renewables. It's a great area to be focusing on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Tugas. I'm from Seward, Alaska, and I recently graduated from Seward High School. And my question is, how do you stay on top of all the topics that you discuss in your daily agenda?
Read, 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 and then read some more. As you all have seen, as you have shadowed me over the past month, there is no day that is ordinary. There is no day where we just focus on one topic. That would make things so easy. I mean, even when we're talking about the energy sphere, there's so much going on in energy. And so in order to be on top of all the issues, it just takes a lot of studying. And I know you all have just graduated high school. I know most of you are going on to college. You tend to think that once you get through your formal education, then you're kind of done with the learning process. Not so much, not at all. In fact, if you're not learning something new every day, you didn't get up out of bed that morning. You need to be pushing yourself, and I certainly push myself in this job. People expect that I am informed, and I have amazing opportunities here to tap into considerable experts in all fields. If I want to know what's going on with renewable energy technologies, there's just an open book of people that I can talk to, the professionals, the consultants, the experts. But it requires that level of real engagement and reach out. We have a lot of briefings that go on around here. As you know, I have a lot of very professional, very strong staff that help coalesce and bring together people and experts and the research that they have poured over. You might not see me reading the full 300-page report, but I will get a briefing from staff on it and be informed as to the details. So between what I do on my own, what my staff helps me with, and really the expertise that I have available, you got a lot to do. So when you worry about having too much homework, just think about what your United States senators have to do. It'll make you feel better.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Lindsay.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Berlini. I'm from Anchorage. I graduated from South High School, and as an Alaska Native, I'm curious as to what you think the relationship between tribal and state government should be, and how will this affect Alaska Native?
Well, it's a good question, and at the base of it, I would absolutely hope that the relationship between the state and our tribes is a relationship based on respect. Respect for what our tribes contribute, respect for what the state provides, but from the federal perspective, we have a trust relationship with our tribes, dealing government to government. Very important. I think those of you that have participated in some of the Indian Affairs hearings have seen and heard that discussion. But what we are able to provide to our Native peoples, not only through the health care, but through education, public safety, these are areas where, again, if you don't have a level of respect and trust between your governing bodies, the state and the tribes here, it's tough to move forward in these relationships. I do think that we have room to improve the relationship currently within the state of Alaska and our tribes, and a respect for the roles that each have to contribute. We've got amazing leadership within our tribes now, and we're seeing that, particularly as so many of our young Native leaders really have just come into their own in a way that is really quite energizing to see. So I'm optimistic about the future of a relationship between the state and our tribes. Good question. Back up to the top.
Hello, Senator, and thank you so much for your time today. My name is Nicole Eldred, and I am from Anchorage, Alaska, and I recently graduated from South Anchorage High School. And I have a question that's very near and dear to the younger generations of females that are growing up right now. And my question to you is, what do you think the future for Alaska women in politics is going to be?
Well, I want to dream big. I want to see women in parity, numbers-wise, in all levels of government as we currently have with men. I was in the legislature when I think we probably had less than 10 women out of our legislature. The numbers have improved, but last I checked, it's about a 50-50 split in the state of Alaska, as it is around the country, between men and women. I would like to see more women leaders, and not just in the legislature, not just here in the United States Senate and in Congress. I'd like to see it at all levels, within the school boards, within the city assemblies, all throughout the process. I think the impact and the influence that women have is extraordinarily important to the debate, to the conversation, to the dialogue, and to the decisions that need to be made. But we need to oftentimes encourage women a little bit more to perhaps take a little bit of risk. And I think you all have seen, as you have walked the halls here of Congress this past month, we've got many, many, many strong leaders. There is no reason that women could not be equally represented here in the United States Senate. So we need to keep pushing. We need to move those numbers up. Women, particularly young women, should not take for granted that we've kind of broken the glass ceiling on this. Stopping at 20 is not where we should be stopping. So come join. Thanks, Nicole.
Hello, Senator. My name is Maria Villa, and I'm from North Pole, Alaska. And my question is, how can Alaskans help improve food nutrition in local schools?
Well, it's a great question, and it's one that I've actually been involved with for a long time. Before I was here in the United States Senate, I like to say that I got my political start as the PTA president at my son's elementary school in Anchorage. And it really disturbed me because I don't remember whether it was in kindergarten or in first grade, but you learn about the food pyramid and how many dairies and how many grains and all this. And so they're teaching nutrition at a very early age. But when you walked down the hallway to the gym, there was a vending machine where kids could basically buy junk. So on the one hand, in the classroom, you're encouraged to think about good nutrition, but what's available in the schools? Junk foods. So when I came back here to the United States Senate, I was involved in an effort with a colleague from Iowa, and we worked to improve and enhance the food nutrition standards within schools. Some people didn't like that because they said, well, wait a minute. You know, we want to raise money for the basketball team or for the football team, and if you take away our ability to sell junk in the vending machines, we're not going to be able to make the money. Well, I think you all have seen the difference. We still have vending machines. Football teams and basketball teams are still making the money, and the stuff in the machines is perhaps a little healthier. And what you're seeing in the cafeterias is also a little bit healthier. It should not be an excuse that we can't provide for healthier foods. Now in Alaska, we've got some challenges. We do. We've got programs here in the lower 48 that we've been pushing that puts more fresh fruits and vegetables onto the school lunch menu, which is great. But think about it. If you're in Kotzebue or perhaps a village outside of Kotzebue, and the fresh fruits and vegetables that you get are not looking pretty good by the time they get out there. And it's expensive. So what can we be doing? Some of the schools, I think, are being far more creative. Down in Southeast, we've got some school districts, some schools that are growing their own vegetables. They're growing their own food. They're selling it to make money for their school. They're having it as part of their lunches. So there is more that we can do to encourage the young people, encourage the students to be engaged in what's going on with what happens in your cafeteria. But I suggest, too, it should not just be the grown-ups back in Washington, D.C. that are saying you should be eating healthier. You all should be demanding that the food that is served is better and is healthier. It's about your health and about your future too. So we've made some good headway, but we're still pushing on it. I want to make sure that we can get wild Alaska salmon in our school lunch menus too.
That would be nice.
That would be great. And it could come from Ketchikan, right, Austin?
Mm-hmm. So you guys, yeah, I guess you just gave away where I'm from.
I did.
I'm Austin Ramsey. I just graduated from Ketchikan High School, and my question is, so when a new issue comes up, what is your best method for overcoming perceptions and personal biases?
It's a great question because there's stuff that comes to you and your kind of automatic first response is, well, I know what I'm going to do with that. Don't ever assume you know all the facts behind the issue. And that's kind of tough for people, you know, I've got a fancy title and the people of Alaska have asked me to come back here and serve them. And so you think, well, after a certain point, you know what you need to know. Wrong, and it goes back to the point about reading and learning every day. Make sure that you really do understand what the facts and the background are of the particular issue in front of you. Oftentimes, I think what happens with decision making, not only in this body but in other areas, is you assume you know the facts because you've kind of seen this movie before. Well, maybe there's a little subtext here that you don't necessarily know about. And so I think it's important that we all kind of push ourselves to make sure that we really do know what is directly in front of us in terms of this decision. And it's okay to challenge yourself. It's okay to look at a situation, and if the facts on the ground have changed, if things have evolved, then we should be looking critically at that. If I made a decision 22 years ago and I'm still stuck on the exact same approach to it, even though the facts have changed dramatically, that's not very good representation. So I think it's important to always keep that open presentation when these issues come before you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Stepovich from Anchorage, Alaska, just graduated from service. I want to start off by saying thank you and for this eye-opening, amazing experience. We've all learned so much.
Great.
My question simply is ANWR. How do you think that we can push further on development, and what are our next steps?
Well, Mackenzie, Alaskans have been asking this question for so many decades. I wish that I could say the good news is that we're getting closer. I think the good news for us as a nation is we are starting to recognize that we do have an energy potential as a nation to be independent between our renewable resources and our vast fossil fuels that we have with oil and natural gas. We can be less vulnerable. We can have energy security and national security as a consequence. But it requires us to tap our own resources. Well, we can do that as long as our policies allow us. And for decades, the policy has been you can't go into ANWR without congressional approval, and we have been unable to gain that, partly due to the fact that it has just become almost a religious symbol. It's just been held so sacred that we can't touch ANWR. Well, think about what we have been producing in Prudhoe Bay for over 3 decades. At a point, we were producing close to 20% of America's domestic oil supply coming out of Prudhoe Bay. Prudhoe Bay is some 60 miles to the west of ANWR. Those who say that ANWR is so special, I think perhaps haven't been up to this slope to realize that the North Slope is a very unique area. But we can access our resources that are underground, do so with a minimal footprint, and that's exactly what we're looking to do in ANWR, to have a footprint that would essentially be the size of Dulles Airport out here. And yet, an opportunity to access what is estimated to be around 10 plus billion barrels of oil. And accessing it safely. This is what does really frustrate and sometimes irritate me, is that Alaskans haven't been given the credit in how we have explored and produced a resource for decades in an Arctic environment, and doing so with a care for the environment that I think is unparalleled around the world. We can do that in ANWR. I've introduced 2 bills. One is Explorer on ANWR on the 1002 coastal plain. The other is utilizing directional reach drilling, not going on the federal lands, but accessing through state lands and using directional reach underneath. Kind of a novel way, but if they say that we don't want you to have a footprint on ANWR, well, we can figure out how that can happen too, because our technology is allowing us to do so much more and to have such a minimal footprint that it's a shame, it's a national shame that we haven't been allowed to access this expertise, to access a resource that could help us with jobs, it could help us with revenues, and really help us with energy security. So we're going to continue to push, and we're going to do so because it's the right fight to be having.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mackenzie. All right, Deirdre, you're last up.
My name is Deirdre Creed, and I'm from Kotzebue, Alaska, and I just graduated from Management High School in Sitka. My question for you today is, what would you tell constituents in Alaska who don't believe their vote counts, especially in rural areas?
Well, I can tell you, I'm living proof that your vote counts. And it's unfortunate when people have that misimpression that somehow or other my opinion doesn't matter, that somehow or other my right to vote doesn't carry that weight, and so I'm just not going to weigh in. Alaska is a pretty interesting example because we have had so many races where truly the race has been won by a matter of 2 to 3 votes. I had a colleague who was in the state house and moved on to the state senate, won by a whopping 3 votes. When I came into the House in 1998, one of my colleagues won his race. He was out of Valdez. I think he won by 6 votes. Just a few years ago, we had a race down in out in the southwest part of the state, in the Aleutians area, and it was a tie. And they did a recount, and it was a tie. And they decided who was going to serve in that House seat by the flip of a coin. And Bryce Edgman is still in office today because of a coin toss. Now, you can ask him and Carl Moses, well, Representative Moses is no longer with us, but you can ask them about whether or not their vote counts. Their vote definitely counts, and even in Anchorage. I was in a pretty close House race early on, and when you think about my race in 2010, think about the significance of the vote from rural Alaska that helped influence the outcome, the successful outcome of that write-in election. It was people around the state, but particularly in rural Alaska, who perhaps had not voted in that primary election, who came out and really made a difference with that electoral outcome. So I use Alaska as a case in point as to the value, to how each vote really does count and really does make a difference. But beyond all that, and you all are either just turned 18 or shortly approaching it, I hope that each of you takes this right to vote with a passion and a real commitment. What we have as Americans and the freedoms that we have and what comes with this right and this privilege to vote is really quite incredible, and we take it for granted in this country. I hope that you don't. I hope that you always take it very, very seriously. You've certainly demonstrated that with your month with me here in Washington, D.C. I know you've come to have fun, you've had that, but you've learned a lot. You have been wonderful ambassadors for the state of Alaska. And I know that because my colleagues will comment that they have met various interns, whether in the subways or going to and from the floors, and they've been very impressed by the young Alaskans that we have back here. And so I thank you for representing your communities, representing your state. But to our audience that has had an opportunity to view these young people and see the enthusiasm, I hope that you too share the pride that I have in young Alaskans growing up, going to good schools, taking things seriously, but really wanting to be part of a process that is really quite extraordinary and quite special. So thank you for the opportunity to present them to you on this week's edition of the Alaska Report. We're going to have another opportunity in next month's edition for you to meet the second group of our interns. I'm sure they will be equally fabulous, but we'll save that for then. With that, thank you so much, and we'll catch up with you on the next edition of the Alaska Report.